All right, so we're on page Kuf Lamed Tes, and let me get this. Kuf Lamed Tes, and we're about to, with God's help, we're going to finish this piece today. It says, this is a hara shalol the daber basic knesses, not to speak in the basic knesses, zulas of the tefillah only, your words should only come out while you're praying. In other words, the words of prayer. Shalol l'rok basic knesses. Now this, not to spit in the basic knesses. Now I'm trying to imagine that. Seems to me that when I was a little boy, I mean like a really little boy, my mother took me to my grandfather's shul, which is Ashkenaz shul in the Jewish ghetto. They had St. Louis there, and they had spittoons on the floor. It was like a wooden floor, a big room with spittoons. And he said, I was playing around. I didn't know what a spittoon. I never saw anything like that before. And my mother said, don't touch that. Because apparently the Russians chewed tobacco or they did something. I don't know what they did, this whole people, but they did a lot of spitting. Anyway, he says not to spit. I imagine they might have had wood floor or dirt floors over there also. I'm not sure. Anyway, so a person should use a siddur. And a person, when he's praying, should close his eyes. He says, I also saw my master, he said, he was really, really careful. Not to speak at all, but basic knesses and the basic knesses. Also, when you're not davening. In other words, when you're in that room. That's what I guess he means, the basic knesses. So specifically, even if you're talking about Musar, the tshuva, things like that, Lo Choya wrote to the daber, he didn't want to speak. So that, one thing leads to another, and you're speaking just regular talking. Also, he never spit. He was careful not to spit. So let's say, for example, you had a lot of spittle in your mouth. He'd swallow it. But taliso in his talus, I guess he would wipe it up. Bolo begrona, or he would swallow it in his mouth. I guess mavlio, the first one, really refers to absorb it. Gam kolam is Gam kol hazmira v'rakabana v'kriya shema. So also these different prayers. So all of these prayers he would say in the siddur. The siddur hatfilah shabiyado, that is his siddur. The lachash. But when he came to the Shemona Esrei, he closed his eyes. And he would say it from memory. So also, even at the time of the Chazaras HaSiddur, his eyes were closed. And so therefore he would listen, and he would have kavanot to what the pshat was in what the Shliach Tzibur was saying. So now we go back and we'll look at the tiv. It's on number Reish Taf Zion. Where is that? It's down at the bottom. So he says, Marchu Mosiv L'chtov Kam Mashura Answer Rabba L'Rizal Ezon Hagos Hashaychus the Hilchus Basic Knesses. So we're finishing up now. This is the end of this keta. He says, and the last part was, okay, let us go on. So Harizah Ko Hikbid. It was really seriously strict. Shlo the daber basic knesses, not to speak in the basic knesses. Afilu shadacha b'shas tefillah, even if you're in the basic knesses and nobody's davening at that moment. V'hosav sayag al sayag, and he asked one fence on another. So in other words, he surrounded himself with guards. Also, just to try to inspire someone. Lo Ronzo the daber basic knesses, didn't want to speak in the basic knesses. The reason why he didn't want to even hear that, so it shouldn't pull itself into another in. But basic Knesset, and that's really what he wants. He wants to say that the basic Knesset is kadosh, and not to bring coal in. So then he never said anything. Shall most of the art of the b'tshuva. The rope, the basic Knesset, so he's also careful not to spit in the basic Knesset. And so he says, and if they reach this rope, reach their mouths, he would clean it with his clothing. O below begrona would swallow with the basic Knesset. Next one, he said, so he used the siddur to actually say these. He did not say them from memory. So he hold that in his hand. So in other words, he said that is the siddur that he had in his hand, and he didn't say it by memory. Akbar Tefillah Amida with Lachash Nog Arizal Lehispala Ba'atzimas Einaim. He had his eyes closed below the Histankel B'Siddur, but not to look in the Siddur. V'chein B'Chazar Sashat's also there. Hoyin Nohi La'ambar V'La'atzim Einav. He would keep his eyes closed. V'Lishmor V'La'kamen the Tefillah Shliach Tzibor, and that's on that. Now we're going to the next kata. The next section, rather, the next drush. It's completely different. Let's read the top part. So this is the Inyan and Tzitzis. It's drush Aleph on page Kuf Mem Gimel. He said, "But Inyan and Tzitzis Haggadah v'Hakatan." So what's going on with the two different types of tzitzis that we wear? Inyan and Tzitzis, he says, "Da." So it's a concept of an or makif. Or makif or panimi. So there's obviously he's contrasting the two. So the Eber in that stage, lo hoya sheish kitzvais bilvad. He was only a vok. But the situation of the vlok was he was tlas klil betlas. It was folded up. And you couldn't see that there was a rosh there. It was only a vok. There were no arms. Ella guf echad pashut bilvad. There was only one simple body there. So he says the concept of being in an embryonic stage is when you put on your small. I say put on. He didn't use that word. It corresponds to the small tzitzis. Shein mis'atvim bo, where you don't wrap yourself in it. Lo esa rosh v'lo esa guf, excuse me, let me get back. Esa's row is not the body or the arms. But now when you come to the big tzitzis, talis gadol, it's a concept of their anpen when he's grown into godless. And now he has 10 spheros. And then now you have his upper arms, his arms. He says the arms. A little, just stumbling on that a little bit because I would have thought that they would be on the inside with the chagat. As he's going to explain, but let's see. V'nis pashad roshav is a rosav. V'lechem shir zecha b'chatalis hagadol shechol l'chatifa. So I guess he means to say that you could see them. They're not covered over anymore, and they're now out there. So he says that you're going to wrap yourself. Hu kadei l'chasas roshav v'rovo. So the purpose of doing this is to be able to cover over his head and the majority of his body, like the Gemara says. How much more time do we have?
4 minutes.
Let's see if we can get through this. We'll try to say as little English as possible. The two of them, the talis, the tzitzis, now he's separating them. One is talis, one is tzitzis. So both of them, the garment itself and the tzitzis themselves, Sheyesh or makiv or penime ubelikum the farsh lacholon. He said the call parts of the call sphere of the call or yesh de bechinos shehem or makif or penimi. So Chaza yesh dal shlosh zumanim shehem ivor yanika and godless. V'hazmana rishon chuba bechinos ivor. V'az hazacha v'yesh do rak shisha kitzvos shehem sheish spheres, which are 6 spheres. Chesed gevura teferes netzachod and yisod. But they're folded over. Elu toch elu, one inside of the other. B'ofen shechachesed shuhu b'kav yamim b'kufa b'yachad b'netzach. V'chagavur shuhi b'tzad small b'kufeles, it's doubled over b'yachad imahod. V'chateferish shuhu b'kav emsoy, which is in the middle line. 1 second. It's doubled together, folded over with the yisod. It's called by this name. 3 into a side of 3. Behind the Chagad shehem shlosh is the Chagad, which is 3. They're concluded in the 3, which is the 9. Of Zmana Ibor, so when the time of gestation. You can't see his head. There is no head there. Which is the Chabad, is the Mochin. Ella hakol nirka b'yachol. Kagon echad pashat bilvad. So it looks like one entity, as if not, I mean one set, which is his 9. So there's a reference here to the talis katan, shehu bechinas or makif zah, which is or makif of zah, behi yosef be'iver bilvad, but only in that state, the state of the ivor, because I guess the talis katan has no arms. So that's why he mentioned arms, or he just meant to say arms represents Chagat. I'm not sure. Lo es a rosh, v'lo es roas b'talus cotton. Became in sha'az adayin ein lezer anpin as bechinas a rosh him Chabad shalo. So therefore we don't do that, because at this time the Kavanot is that we're in Ibor. Ve'en nikar b'chaz roas, so you can't see the arms. Shehem Chesed Gevura Shalo, which represents the Chesed and the Gevura. The Talis Gadol Sh'od Shefim Bo Eserosh Ve'es Hazro is that Shuhu Or Hamakiv Shelzer Anpin Behi Yosef Bechinas Gadlos, when he's in the state of Gadlos. Bechinas Gadlos, and then Zah, now he's a Mochan Gadlos. Oz Yeshlo Eses Spheres Gemuras B'Shlemos. Over Osa Eis Mispashtim Barosha of this Rosho, V'chaz now spread out, and you could see that there's a head in Zer Anpin, and there were arms there. V'nikarim b'chu b'bechinas Rosh v'az Roos. Number Yodalad, V'kevich b'shechatalos Godel Romas the Or Hamakiv Doim the Godlu Shalzah. So now you understand that this is the concept of bringing godless in. Shahaz Kavar Yesh Dacha b'bechinas Rosh v'az Roos, because there in that state he already had. I mean, they went through Yanika, I guess. And also there's a Rosh now and arms. V'lechein shir ha'atifa b'talas gadol hu kadei l'chasas rosho v'rover mishel haguf. So the concept, he says, the shear, the amount of covering, I think he means, when you're wrapping yourself in it, is to cover your head and your body. So he said, tifas ha'talas gadol, so when you put on the big talis, talis megich of rock adachaz shel ha'adam, then the talis reaches only to the chest. So shazech b'makom ku achrei shlish elyon to Tiferes, that this place is after the upper shlish of Tiferes. I think I went too far. I went into the next section. I didn't realize that. Okay, so we'll stop here. Okay.